Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Who is back from vacation is me. Um, but besides the point, welcome to No Final Bell episode 20. Um, yes, you got to see this man by himself recording the episode 19. From what I was hearing, he did a very good job at it. But your main host and also the co-host are back in the same picture for the first time in over a week.
Yeah.
But
I forgot to mention last week, by the way. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. Last week was the first show of 2022. This is now the second show of 2022. Forgot to mention that last week. I just wanted to mention it this week that it is a new year and we have a lot to talk about.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if Marty has.
I have a lot of impact to cover this week. So we have tapings before Hard to Kill, and then we also have Hard to Kill itself. So we start off the the tapings of Hard to Kill, or of Impact before Hard to Kill, with a precursor to the Knockouts Ultimate X match, as the 6 women that compete. Well, before we had a late replacement, but we'll get to that. Chelsea Green, Tasha Steelz, and Lady Frost were on one team, and on the other team was Rachel Ellering, Jordan Grace, and Rosemary. Now, Rachel Ellering was supposed to be in the match at Hard to Kill, but unfortunately, she couldn't make it, or something happened, and Alicia Edwards actually took her place. But regardless, on this taping, Chelsea Green, Tasha Steelz, and Lady Frost defeated Rachel Ellering, Jordan Grace, and Rosemary as a precursor to the first ever Knockouts Ultimate X match at Hard to Kill. Then we go to a backstage segment with Moose, and he wants to prove why he's the greatest world champion in all of professional wrestling at Hard to Kill. This is a big announcement that came out of the latest batch of tapings for Impact on March 3rd, which is a Thursday. Thursday, March 3rd at 10 p.m., right after Impact Wrestling tapings, New Japan Pro Wrestling returns to Access TV. Impact took that spot away from them initially back in 2019, but now New Japan Pro Wrestling is back starting March 3rd. New Japan Pro Wrestling is back on Access TV. So the US market for New Japan now has another option besides their streaming service, NJPW World, which is only $9.99 a month. But regardless, you don't want to pay for New Japan World, or you don't want to, regardless of your situation, you now have Access TV to view New Japan. So
Pretty cool.
So I have this down from Hard to Kill. There is a match, hardcore war between VBD and the Good Brothers versus Heath and Rhino, Eddie Edwards, Rich Swann, and Willie Mack. And then we got to in-ring action. Jonah defeats Jake Something, and right after the match, Josh Alexander and Jonah brawl before Hard to Kill, and it ends with Jonah putting Josh Alexander through a table. And it kind of played into how will, Josh Alexander be able to go into this match knowing that he's not 100%. But didn't seem to faze him too much. Next we have the in-ring debut, contractual debut of Masha Slamovich. She ends up beating Sandra Moon. So, And we had an added stipulation for Hard to Kill that at Hard to Kill, if Steve Maclin loses to Trey Miguel, he can never challenge for the X Division Championships again, so long as Trey Miguel is still champion. Which we will get to that X Division Championship match. But next up, we have, with Mickie James on commentary, Deonna Purrazzo ended up beating Mercedes Martinez. Now, this is interesting to me because before this latest batch of Impact Wrestling tapings after Hard to Kill, Mercedes Martinez was not contracted, was not signed to any wrestling promotion. I believe she was only showing up to Impact Wrestling like as a free agent, essentially. So now that she is signed with AEW, I'm pretty sure that puts a stop to Mercedes Martinez being in Impact Wrestling, which is unfortunate, but at the same time, I feel like she's going to go on to do bigger and better things in AEW. That's just my opinion, but regardless, the Inspiration and the Influence are jealous of ripping each other off because there was a segment with the Inspiration where they were essentially doing their own version of All About Me, which was the Influence's show. They even had a guy who basically was ripping off Caleb with a K. So it led to their match at Hard to Kill, which was supposed to be a match at Hard to Kill. I'm not entirely sure what ended up happening. I don't exactly remember what ended up happening, but the Knockouts Tag Team titles unfortunately did not get defended at Hard to Kill. There were a few card subject to change moments that happened at Hard to Kill, and they kind of had to make do with what they had. Regardless, Madman Fulton and Ace Austin beat Johnny Swinger and Hernandez, and then after the match, they break the arm of Hernandez. They put his arm in a chair and stomp it. So then we cut to a backstage segment where W. Morrissey says he will be alone when he wins, and he's alone heading into the triple threat match. He's always been alone in Impact Wrestling, and now he is alone. But the main event of the taping before Hard to Kill was a match between Carl Anderson and Heath, where the winner of the match would gain an advantage in Hardcore War. Now, I was a little confused of what Hardcore War was going to be heading into the match. Basically, Hardcore War is just war games without a cage. That's the most simplest way for me to describe it. So, Carl Anderson ended up beating Heath, and he gained the advantage in Hardcore War. And then to close out Impact and give the fans a good preview, both teams end up brawling. So that's the tapings. Now we're on to the actual Hard to Kill event. Now, I have both the countdown to Hard to Kill as well as the actual Hard to Kill show. So on the countdown, we had Jake Something beating Madman Fulton, as well as the re-debut, I guess you could say, of Speedball Mike Bailey. So he has been unable to travel to the U.S. and North America for quite some time, but now he is back in North America. He is back in Impact Wrestling. He ended up beating Chris Bay, Ace Austin, and Laredo Kid in a fatal four-way. Now we get onto the main show. What a way to start off the main show. Knockouts Ultimate X. And who is the winner of the first ever Knockouts Ultimate X but Tasha Steelz? Tasha Steelz wins the first ever Knockouts Ultimate X match and will get a future Knockouts Championship match. So, when will that come? We are not entirely sure, but regardless, congratulations to Tasha Steelz for winning the first ever Knockouts Ultimate X match. Next up, Trey Miguel becomes the first man to pin Steve Maglin in Impact Wrestling, which now means that Steve Maglin can no longer challenge for the Impact Wrestling X Division title so long as Trey Miguel is champion. So, Trey Miguel, congratulations for retaining your X Division Championship, and also congratulations for being the first man to pin Steve Maclin in Impact Wrestling. Next up, we had quite a special occasion. The Ring of Honor World Championship was defended at an Impact Wrestling pay-per-view. Jonathan Gresham beat Chris Sabin, as I kind of imagined, to retain the Ring of Honor World Championship. But the interesting thing to note about this match, it was contested under pure rules, meaning there were only a certain amount of rope breaks allowed. There were no closed fists, no this, that. Now that I've actually seen enough pure wrestling rules like matches, after watching both Final Battle and Hard to Kill with the world title being under pure rules, now I understand it more, and honestly, I actually like the pure rules of like how Ring of Honor does that. So, but either way, Jonathan Gresham retains the Ring of Honor World title and beats Chris Sabin, which, by the way, Ian Riccaboni, the Ring of Honor announcer, was on commentary, as well as the ring announcer, Bobby Cruz, was there. But that's not the only Ring of Honor people, and we'll come back to that later. But next up, we have Josh Alexander versus Jonah, and Josh Alexander tapped out Jonah in quite a grueling match. Next up, we have Hardcore War. Heath, Rhino, Willie Mack, Eddie Edwards, and Rich Swann versus VBD and the Good Brothers. That Hardcore War was like brutal. There were a lot of weapons, a lot of blood, a lot of just back and forth action. But it ultimately ended with Heath, Rhino, Willie Mack, Eddie Edwards, and Rich Swann beating our BBD and the Good Brothers. But going back to what I said earlier with the ROH guys, ROH sent a message to Impact. They set up an invasion angle as the Kingdom, Vincent, and PCO beat down the Impact stars. What does this mean? Not even Scott D'Amore knew. He was surprised as all of us were. He was like, I saw what happened, and I'm there with you. I'm just as shocked as everybody else. I don't know what happened. I'm calling Baltimore to see what the hell is going on. And basically what that meant is he's gonna call the people at Ring of Honor to like just get a sense of what's going on. Like, why are these Ring of Honor guys invading my show? So then we get to the World Championship match, which initially I thought was the main event until I remembered, oh, right, the Knockouts title needs to be defended. But regardless, triple threat: Moose, Matt Cardona, and W. Morrissey for the Impact World Championship. Unfortunately, Matt Cardona did not get his moment, nor did W. Morrissey. Moose retained in a triple threat match with the odds ever against him. But regardless, then we get to the main event. And quite frankly, I thought that there was going to be a slight sliver that Impact would give Deonna Purrazzo the Knockouts Championship again, but no. In a Texas death match, which is a traditional Texas death match and not the Texas death match that AEW did, where it's basically just a glorified last man standing match. A traditional Texas death match where you get a a pinfall or a submission, 3 count, whatever, and then you have until the count of 10 to get back to your feet. Otherwise, that's it. But regardless, Mickie James beat Deonna Purrazzo. But one interesting thing to note, and it will be addressed later tonight on Impact, Roxy, the Ring of Honor Women's Champion, was in the crowd for the match, possibly setting up a Deonna Purrazzo and Roxy match, which, like I said, later tonight on Impact will happen. They teased it and they set it up at Ring of Honor Final Battle. Now it is coming to fruition on Impact tonight. Roxy will put her Ring of Honor World Championship on the line against Deonna Purrazzo, who is putting her AAA Reina de Reinas Championship on the line. Winner takes all between Deonna Purrazzo and Roxy. Who becomes the combined Reina de Reinas and Ring of Honor World Champion, World Women's Champion? Is it Roxy? Is it Deonna Purrazzo? Regardless, it's going to be amazing. And I'm so glad the Forbidden Door is continuing to be opened in the world of professional wrestling. And speaking of which, the Impact Knockouts champion Mickie James is entering the Royal Rumble. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. By the way, another huge announcement in the world of wrestling, NWA Power is back on YouTube. Granted, it's not in the slot that it once was on Tuesdays at 6:05. That is still the home of Fight TV. But regardless, if you don't have Fight TV or you don't, no need to worry. It is on YouTube, free of charge. And with that, NWA announced Power coming back to YouTube, but also there's a new mini-series on YouTube with NWA. It is called NWA USA. So there's a lot of NWA content to consume now, as well as they also announced a new annual subscription, NWA All Access, where you get not only every single episode of NWA Power this year, but also every episode of NWA USA this year, not to mention every pay-per-view this year for NWA. And it's all an annual subscription, and it's only $50. It is literally the best deal that you can get for NWA. But regardless, if you don't want to do that, if you don't have Fight TV or whatever, or you just don't really you think that $50 for an annual subscription is a bit too much, that's perfectly fine. You can still order the pay-per-views on Fight TV. You can watch NWA Power and NWA USA on YouTube. So regardless of how you consume your NWA content, NWA has you covered. That's enough rambling for me today.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you usually, last week it was a little different with Marty going over the whole entire slot of AEW, but I am back. And rest assured that I'll probably be like that for a good amount of time for right now. But as we go on, beginning of the match, we had the rematch between Adam Hangman Page and Bryan Danielson. This time we had a actual winner. Even though that we had 3 judges who were Mark Henry, Jerry Lynn, and Paul White. But this time, Adam Hangman Page, in just over 30 minutes of action, beats Bryan Danielson with a buckshot lariat that he was, if he had a little bit more time, would have been able to beat him with the first time. So it begs to differ. Now that Adam Hangman Page was able to beat Bryan Danielson and get that whole feud away from him, who do we think could be next for Adam Hangman Page's World Heavyweight title? The answer is we have no idea right now. There's no real person or opponent that speaks or jumps right out of at us at this point at time. Adam Hangman Page, I am so happy that you did get the chance to retain your championship against Bryan Danielson.
He's proving himself as a real champion this time and not really much of like a coward champion in a sense. But at least, yes, now he has that clean win over Bryan Danielson. As far as the next challenger, at this point, it's pretty much whoever is number one in the rankings. Because you have to assume now that Bryan has lost clean to Hangman for the world title. It kind of drops him in the rankings. So whoever is number one now in the rankings is probably going to be the next one to challenge Hangman.
I guess we'll have to find out who it would be. There's a bunch of different guys that I would love to probably see go after Adam Hangman Page for the World Heavyweight title. I mean, Adam Cole being one of them. If not, I don't know, maybe not a returning Kenny Omega or something like that, but Jon Moxley or somebody of that caliber to go after Adam Hangman Page. I guess we'll find out in the coming months as we head into the road to Revolution. But going forward, the Acclaimed, Anthony Bowens lost to Darby Allin, but the Acclaimed say they are not done with Darby Allin. Our thoughts on that? When is it going to be? When are we going to see this come to an end?
I'm not sure when they're going to come to an end, but either way, I'm really excited for what the future brings for Sting and Darby, regardless of who they go up against.
Hopefully Sting and Darby do go after the Acclaimed. I think that they need to start getting more involved into these tag team affairs. But apparently Andrade El Idolo had some problems with Darby Allin and Sting. So it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to be coming with Andrade as well as the Acclaimed with Darby and Sting. As apparently Andrade El Idolo wants Darby Allin on his side, and he's willing to pay a certain price. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with that going forward, as well as what's going to happen with the Acclaimed and Darby and Sting. Again, I guess we will find out in the coming weeks, if not months ahead. I'm definitely looking forward to AEW as late as they have just been on a roll the last couple weeks. So I'm hoping that they really get the momentum on their side, because that's all you can do. You got the momentum on your side right now. You just got to keep on going with it. Don't go down. Don't ride don't do the whole thing where, oh well, we got the momentum, but now we can take a step back. No, you got to keep on rolling forward. So we'll see what happens with that. As we go forward, CM Punk. We thought MJF and Captain Shawn Dean were going to wrestle each other. Well, but CM Punk comes down and
technically Shawn Dean beat MJF. Technically.
We'll talk about that soon. But CM Punk comes down, MJF gets out of the ring, runs up to this ramp like a little coward he is. But what was shocking that I was really intrigued to see, CM Punk comes out and gives Shawn Dean the GTS. That was interesting. I thought, oh, here we go. CM Punk is going to somehow show some kind of a heel side here But he only did it to give MJF a losing record to start, and states that this will keep on happening every single time until the match against CM Punk and MJF finally happens. But speaking of that, as such, MJF says he makes CM Punk relevant and says that Piper was good enough to main event a WrestleMania. Well, I guess he's not wrong there, because CM Punk in his time in WWE has never main evented a WrestleMania in his whole entire life, even though he was very capable of main eventing at least one WrestleMania.
He could have main evented WrestleMania 28 if it wasn't for John Cena and The Rock.
And then he says, "Well, maybe sometime I can main event a WrestleMania." As CM Punk just keeps on laughing, and then MJF is like, "What's so funny, dipshit?"
Yeah. If you think the grass is greener on the other side, go ahead, be my guest, leave. Main event night 4 of a buy one get one extravaganza, then get released and come back because I'll be waiting here to kick your ass. Somewhere along the lines of that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly word by word almost of what he said. But CM Punk wants MJF to stop the talking. He's done with the bullshit. He's done with the talking. All he wants to do is whoop his ass.
Can you blame Punk? Because that's literally what MJF has been doing the entire time in this build-up.
Yeah, he's been talking. CM Punk is done with it.
He's been talking and running.
He's done. CM Punk is done with these childish games. He just wants to fight MJF and get it done and over with. And I don't blame CM Punk. He has a lot more he can go after. He wants the world championship opportunity, and I think he deserves it. But then again, his undefeated run has been kind of sloppy. If there's any title that he should go after, is a TNT title, because I don't think CM Punk, right now at where he is in his career, coming back from 7-year hiatus, I don't think he's anywhere close to being a main event star, if not a world champion. Even though weirder things have happened in the world of professional wrestling.
That is very true.
But next week, we will talk about it next show, but AEW Dynamite will see CM Punk going up against somebody, but it's not going to be MJF. It's actually going to be Wardlow himself. And then CM Punk is like, the main thing with him, myself, and Piper is, unlike you, is we would fight anybody that comes our way. I'll fight Wardlow. I fight whoever comes your way, because eventually you'll run out of guys to hide behind before you go up against me. CM Punk has a point. He will literally have to go after apparently the whole entire Pinnacle before he goes after MJF. And honestly, I think this is exactly what this is going to lead to. This is going to lead into the match at Revolution, where it will be CM Punk versus MJF. And honestly, I'm all for it.
Yeah, definitely.
The build-up has been really, really good.
Yeah.
I think this is, honestly, I'll give MJF credit where credit is due. He knows how to build up matches. He really does. He's a young, inspiring star, but he knows how to build up matches. And when he needs to put the talking to action, he does it in a very good job, honestly.
Absolutely.
So going forward, Daniel Garcia in 2.0 beat down on Chris Jericho and Eddie Kingston, and Pride and Powerful come down to save him. I mean, pretty much leading into the whole entire 6-man tag team match there. Talk about it going forward. Keep on going forward here. Wardlow wins again, even after the C4 from Spears. It's pretty much a given at this point. They're trying to build up as much as Wardlow as much as possible. But the only thing I don't like about Wardlow going against CM Punk is CM Punk is undefeated. Wardlow has been built up so well, even though he's been squashing his opponents with all those power bombs. He actually had 4 power bombs there. The week before, poor Colin Delaney just suffered 4 power
Oh,
bombs.
yeah.
But
Poor Colin.
Wardlow just keeps on going on, but I really do think his momentum is going to be derailed to an undefeated CM Punk. It's pretty much what's going to be. But talk about somebody that is well deserving of being the inaugural champion, Jade Cargill, who is still undefeated at 23-0, becomes the inaugural TBS champion. Sorry about that, everybody. A little technical difficulty here. There we go.
So, yeah. Jade Cargill is the inaugural TBS champion.
That's what I gotta say. Congratulations, Jade Cargill. You finally did it. You finally won a championship in your very young career.
Yes.
I think it's well deserving. Even though I will say I think it's a little early for Jade Cargill, where I don't think exactly a loss would have hurt her that badly. Yes, it kind of would have. You're undefeated. You want to keep her going as this power star, as a TBS champion. But Ruby Soho has had 2 opportunities at women's championships, and both times she fell short.
Yeah.
To Britt Baker for the AEW Women's World Title, and then Jade Cargill, become the inaugural TBS champion.
Now, the thing about
it makes you beg to differ. When is Ruby Soho finally going to get her chance after a world title?
Yeah.
Because to my knowledge, I think she had an opportunity in WWE or became one in WWE, but I don't think so.
Not that I know of, no. But the thing about it is, like, the argument can be made that, like, oh yeah, they only did it as a precautionary measure so that it wouldn't make them look bad with the whole, like, diversity thing and Big Swole. But I guess they've had this idea in place for a while now. But regardless, I think I still think that they only did it as a precautionary measure to Big Swole and the whole, like, diversity thing. There's not enough diversity in AEW, so.
Which I'm not gonna go into full detail about it, but I just think that's honestly complete utter bullshit to me, because there's a lot of diversity in AEW, and I'm not gonna go into full detail about that. But I will say, congrats, Jade Cargill. But honestly, Ruby Soho, when is her opportunity going to be?
Yeah.
For being a women's world champion or or women's champion in general.
Yeah.
Because she hasn't done it in WWE. She hasn't been able to do it in AEW. When is her time? When is she good enough? Because she was the only person in that whole entire tournament that got the furthest to the finals that didn't have a first round bye. But yet you're going to have her lose and derail even more momentum that she had. How are you going to build her up? You go, okay, and now you're going to have her team up with certain people, to give her opportunities. No, I think what you need to do is have her go after, a title. I mean, I guess technically she could have a rematch for the TBS championship. I mean, I guess technically she could be the number 1 contender for that, in a sense. But other than that, I don't know what else you could do to give a certain opponent for Jade Cargill other than Ruby Soho for Evolution. I guess that makes the most sense. But I guess we'll have to find out in that sense. But going forward, Serena Deeb is not done with Hikaru Shida, but she will do anything to be at the top of the division. Strong words for a woman that doesn't even have a championship right now. I mean, I really will say yes, she was the NWA Women's World Champion. So she does have a say in she could eventually be, the top women's wrestler in AEW. She very well could. But the thing is, there's two champions that are out there that you can prove a point to. It's Jay Cargill and it's Britt Baker. So you saying that you want to be the top of the division, it's kind of like saying, Ricky Starks is relevant as being the FTW champion. It just makes no sense at all. Like, in that sense, to Ricky Starks, it's just another title that you're holding that makes you look like you're relevant when you're really not.
No offense to Ricky Starks, he's a great athlete.
He is
great, but all he is so far is an FTW champion, and it's not even a legit championship.
Like I said on the show before, I'm going to say it again. I'm all for Hikaru Shida and Serena Deeb going after each other, but it better be the last time, and it better lead into them getting a future title opportunity. That's all I can say about that. So, something that I figured would eventually happen in their careers finally happened. The start of the TBS era of AEW. We get new tag team champions finally. Because it made no sense that they lost to Lucha Bros in the first place to go after the tag team titles. Well, this time they get revenge on the Lucha Brothers and beat them for the tag team titles, and they are the tag champions for the first time in their careers as they're holding tag team gold, or a championship for the first time in their illustrious AEW careers. Congratulations, Jurassic Express. Very hard, very well deserved. You worked your asses off for over 3 years to get to this point. Honestly, I am happy as all hell to see them as champions. Christian Cage did promise that you would see them as tag champions under his guidance. Well, all I can say is it finally happened under his guidance, but hopefully it means for good things to come. Hopefully they can go after some great tag teams heading up, as there's a lot of them, and it could potentially be more.
Now it just kind of leads to the question of when is Christian Cage going to get his time as a champion? Because last time he was a champion, he was the Impact World Champion. So,
I mean, probably eventually. I would like to see Christian Cage wrestle a little bit more instead of being Jurassic Express's kind of manager in a sense. Because honestly, ever since joining up with AEW, he really hasn't been seen as much or used as much. So hopefully very soon he could get used in like a TNT title sense, or maybe even build him up as again into the world title picture like he was when he went up against Kenny Omega. So, which by the way, I really do think that was the best rivalry in the sense of last year was Kenny Omega and Christian Cage. That was built up so well. Even though I think Chris Jericho and MGF, which actually did win the rivalry of the year by Pro Wrestling Insider, with a 36% of votes go in their favor, which with a picture on social media that showed Chris Jericho with the plaque in his hand of, the rivalry of the year. Well deserved, because I think MGF and Chris Jericho definitely did have some great matches there, which ultimately helped MGF ascend even higher levels where he is right now.
Well, not to mention it also because of Chris Jericho and MJF, it also gave us the first ever blood and guts match in AEW between the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle.
Yes, it did. So, going forward with our, segment, that our new segment here, best sign of the week I saw was in the crowd, kind of closer towards the stage. It was MGF fears Larry as he's coming down the ring, as he just flipping off all the crowd as he walks by, which, yeah, I think he would fear anybody. I think he just fears CM Punk and whoever is associated with CM Punk in general. So
even
honestly,
CM Punk's dog, Larry.
Yeah.
So
honestly, I like that sign. It was the only one I could see that was a good one or very interesting, because he does fear CM Punk, hence why he keeps on running away from him every chance he gets. So honestly, I really do think that it's going to lead to some kind of like steel cage match or something where MGF, as soon as he gets in there, can't escape. So I can see it being some kind of match like that.
If not that, then maybe like a bull rope match or like a strap match.
Yeah, I think it's going to lead into something where MJF can try to escape, but just gets pulled back. It's kind of leading into something like that. So honestly, I would be all for it. Oh my gosh. As we get into the Rampage side of things, Adam Cole beats Jake Atlas, and Orange Cassidy comes down with the best friends that can continue the rivalry. I've been saying it all along. We're going to see faction versus faction eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what it's leading to. As far as the whole Young Bucks and the Paragon there, also Red Dragon. I don't know what's gonna happen with that. I don't know if they're gonna split up, but for right now, it's going to be, leading into a faction versus faction with the elite going up against the best friends. I'm all for it. But honestly, I will say in this whole entire match, Adam Cole was looking pretty weak against the guy that just got there. Jake Atlas was just whooping Adam Cole's ass the whole entire match.
And if you don't remember Jake Atlas, he was in NXT for a little while. So
Jake Atlas definitely has a bright future in AEW, because if he can just keep on putting on the matches that he does, especially against Adam Cole, who is, you know, valued as one of AEW's big stars there. If you can put up that kind of match against him, even though you lost in a weird sense there, honestly, I would be happy with myself. I mean, you don't exactly have the best record at 1-1, but it's still a lot better than a lot of other guys in AEW right now. So I'm hoping that AEW is going to utilize Jake Atlas very well, because honestly, in that match against Adam Cole, man, yeah, you said that you wanted to beat him and send him back to Orlando, but honestly, I hate to say it, but you kind of got your ass kicked by somebody that was in, Orlando a little bit longer than you were in that sense. So maybe you should bite the bullet and eat those words, because you were kind of getting carried that whole entire match. I hate to say it. As weird as that seems, because Adam Cole is that kind of guy, the kind of athlete that can honestly carry matches. Well, I hate to say it, in that one, you got carried the whole entire match. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
yeah.
I mean, Marty and I here on No Final Bell can just agree that you got carried a whole entire match, and there's no ifs,
we were
ands, or
both
buts.
watching the same match, and yeah, you got carried through that entire match, Adam Cole. So, Austin. Your
So,
real name.
going forward, I don't really have to describe myself too much. I mean, Hook beats Aaron Solo. That's about it. I
They
mean,
sent Hook.
they sent Hook, all right. Um, Going forward, Ruby Soho and Riho beats Britt Baker
Ruby,
and Jamie
Ruby
Hayter.
Soho.
Um, and Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter are still at odd ends about each other, which I think
Yep.
will lead into a future title shot for Jamie Hayter. Wouldn't be. I don't think it's the first time she had that kind of title shot. I think she had one before, but Jamie Hayter will eventually lead into the breakup of Britt Baker and her little group there. So
It'll only be her and Rebel again.
yeah, which I almost thought that Rebel was going to break up with Britt Baker there because there was signs of it. So honestly, I think there will be signs of all three of them kind of breaking that little group up soon. Eddie Kingston and Santana Ortiz beat 2.0 and Daniel Garcia, and then they beat down Eddie Santana Ortiz as Jericho comes down to help out his boys. I kind of figured, man, it was back and forth. There was a lot of action. Um, there was tables, there was steel chairs, there was garbage cans that were being used. I tell you, Rampage the last couple of weeks there have been on a absolute tear as of late, with 2 weeks in a row of like hardcore matches in a sense. And man, I tell you, keep it up. I'm all for it. AEW, Dynamite and Rampage have been absolute fire as of late. I just would keep it up.
Yeah,
You've
definitely.
been putting together some great matches with stars that you would think that would not be as utilized as much as like a lot of the other talent that you have gotten over the years. But let me tell you something, man. I am legit impressed with what you have been doing. Oh, I think I forgot one thing. Going back kind of to the Dynamite side of things, Malachi Black beats Pillman and was about to beat him down, and the Lucha Brothers come out to save him, which is going to probably um, lead into a big fiasco thing there. I don't know. I'm kind of confused of why the Lucha Brothers came down um to save Brian Pillman Jr. after Malachi Black beat him. But also I will say this after Dynamite. Please best wishes to Ray Phoenix as
Yeah,
that
yeah,
dislocated
badly.
elbow didn't look very good. I was watching the replay a couple different times and it just made me look away. So honestly, I'm hoping for the best of him, but man, he just keeps on getting hurt. This is at least his third time getting hurt in his AEW career. I hate to say it, it's eventually something where if I'm Tony Khan, I'm looking at Ray Phoenix. I'm like, do we have to maybe like eventually bite the bullet and have to kind of release the Lucha Brothers, even though they're one of the best tag teams of that brand? But if you keep on, if Ray Phoenix keeps on going out there and getting hurt, then like it might be just like a
Yeah,
liability issue for AEW as he
absolutely.
just can't stay healthy. And I hate to say it, it just looks bad on AEW's part. You know, the thing is like you would think you had the table there. Don't put your arm out like you're just gonna get it like folded in half. I mean, I know it's not exactly his fault for that happening, but you might have to like keep it to your chest and just brace for impact
Yeah,
there. Instead of having your arm out. I mean, I get it, you want to like
brace your fall.
brace your fall, but you braced your fall with also like your arm just getting dislocated to possibly being fractured. So I don't know if it was worth it in the end, honestly. I mean, I know he could have gotten hurt a hell of a lot more than he um, could have, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping for his sake that he'll be all right. Um, but yeah, that was basically it for Dynamite and the Rampage side of things. I kind of figured that Eddie Kingston and Santana Ortiz were going to beat 2.0 Daniel Garcia, but the whole thing with that is not done and over with. Um, it makes me speculate if it'll eventually end up with a 8-man tag team where, um, I mean, it very well could. I think 2.0 and Daniel Garcia could find somebody to team up with to face off against Eddie Kingston, Santana, Ortiz, and Chris Jericho, because that's kind of what it seems like it might be leaning towards. So I'm very interested to see what that will happen. But as we have a special event that happened as Battle of the Belts. We had 3 extra matches this entire week. Fortunately, Cody Rhodes' illness struck him right 48 hours before the event happened, so that means um, Thursday, right after Dynamite, which seems like bad timing for Cody. He gets an illness. Justin found out 48 hours before the match that he would be actually defending or competing against Sammy Guevara for the interim TNT Championship. It would have been cool to see Dustin get a title, even if it's an interim title. But Sammy Guevara is technically a 2-time TNT champion as he wins the interim TNT Championship and beating Dustin Rhodes in a very highly anticipated match with a sick Canadian Destroyer through the table spot.
Yeah.
Man, let me tell you something. Dustin can still wrestle at
Dustin
like
can
over
still go,
50
man.
years old.
Yeah. He's a workhorse.
But Sammy Guevara will be wrestling uh, Daniel Garcia on Dynamite for the interim TNT Championship. But makes you speculate. As soon as Cody Rhodes comes back, I'm sure it will be a unification match between Sammy Guevara and Cody Rhodes, where I'm kind of hoping that Sammy can win and actually be the TNT champion. But something tells me that Cody Rhodes will come back, win, be the actual TNT champion. Well, technically he is, but
But be the
he
undisputed.
undisputed TNT champion. But hopefully, going with that too, the open challenges can come back where I think they will. Cleveland, it's highly speculated that Cleveland could either be the return of Jon Moxley or the debut of Johnny Gargano, who is also from Cleveland, Ohio.
Well, Jon Moxley is close to Cleveland. He's from Cincinnati. But regardless, a nice hometown reception for Jon Moxley returning would be a welcome addition.
Yes, I was. But going forward, Ricky Starks puts the FTW World Title on the line against Matt Sydal, where he retains it. Um, Ricky Starks, you know, did do really well in that match, but Matt Sydal, it would be nice to see him win at least a championship. So, maybe him and Mike Sydal could win the tag team titles eventually in their careers, but something tells me it probably will not happen. But moving forward, the one opponent that Britt Baker has never been able to beat in her entire career is Riho. Well, she finally put that aside and beats her with a lockjaw to retain the Women's World Championship. man, it just makes you, it begs to differ. When will Britt Baker lose her Women's World Championship? She
And
has
to
been
who?
it. She's been on an absolute tear ever since winning that title, beating every single opponent that has come her way. This makes you wonder, when is she going to actually lose that title, and to who? Will it be Jamie Hayter? Will it be somebody else? Will it possibly be Ruby Soho, which there might be some speculation that they could go after each other for the women's world title. But honestly, ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude this episode of No Final Bell as we head into the 20s of episodes. Hard to believe it's been 20 episodes already. Um, Make sure down below to follow us on social media at Tinkle Sports. To my you know right here, please make sure to watch Sports Talk every Sunday at 9 a.m. And also make sure to follow that channel right there, TSE, Tinkle Sports and Entertainment on YouTube. And make sure to like, comment, subscribe it for future content, as well as other shows that are on here. Also a special report. Out of Turn 4 will be returning February 1st, so make sure to watch out for that when it comes out. As always, see you in the next video, everyone.